Hello, everybody, and welcome to this edition of Mr. J's Geek Corner. Place that we talk about everything that is geek, whether it be comics, TV, movies, or video games. And as y'all know, this is usually a fun discussion show. I talk about my opinions on things and probably shared opinions on different things. It's usually a fun show, but today is going to be a little bit more hard hitting than usual, and that's because I'm probably going. You might as well call this a rant. I guess you could call it. I just call it vent something that's very dear on my heart. Been bugging me for the past year or so, and just as I know this probably ain't going to usually be the fun show to usually. I just got to get this off my chest. And as y'all know, I don't like the new 52 at all. I don't like what's going on with DC at all with the new 52 and all that, but it seems like day by day it just seems to be getting worse at DC. And that's because you start hearing all these. I know y'all probably heard about all this stuff with like Batwoman. The most recent news, like Batwoman's marriage being put on hold in the comics, and the creators of the book, the writer and the artist for the book, just walk off the project because in disdain. And DC almost makes it look, and the way it looks to me, almost DC made it look like they just almost made it look like brats almost. And what it was is that they planned this marriage between Batwoman and her girlfriend for a long time, and DC approved of it, and all of a sudden they get right down to the last minute, and DC all of a sudden, they've got the thing fully written and drawn out, almost ready for print, and all of a sudden they say, we don't want to do that. Why? What's the matter with that? I mean, why all of a sudden? And they talk about equality and mess like that in comics the fact that the Green Lantern, Alan Scott, who was formerly straight, they turned gay, and they made such a big deal about that. Why all of a sudden they won't allow lesbian marriage? They claim to be for equality and diversity. Why in the world won't they allow that? I mean, why? What have they got against that? That's just that kind of grind my gears, and also you've probably heard about the art contest talent search thing they had at DC, where they had all the artists try to draw a picture of a naked Harley Quinn contemplating suicide. Why in the world would you do that? Why would you do that? I mean, what's that got to do with telling a good story? Is that you got to find artists, and the only way to find it is to have some twisted, screwed up mess, like a naked Harley Quinn about contemplating committing suicide. Why would you want to go that dark of direction? And it has nothing to do with selling comics. It has nothing to do with selling comics. It has nothing to do with telling a good story. It's just what is up with that? Like I say, and it's just the tip of the iceberg lately of what's been going on. The further downward slide of DC Comics. I mean, it started. A lot of folks think it started with New 52, but I think it started with one event: the hiring of their current publisher, Dan DiDio. It started when they hired him. I mean, they can claim like he's a good writer all they want to. I've hardly ever read any of his stories. But it started with him. I mean, everybody thinks the New 52 is what started messing up DC Comics. He's the one that started messing it up, really, after what I've read. I mean, I read an article not too long ago. They said that it all started back in 2004, not with 2011's New 52. It started back in 2004 with Identity Crisis. And just to warn you ahead of time, and just to warn you before I get in too deep, I should have probably warned you in the beginning. This has a lot of adult subject matter. I wouldn't let your kids listen to this. So, and some of y'all might be a little bit sensitive to this, so forgive me if I've offended you. But this is what's really going on. But back to what I was saying, in 2004, when they did Identity Crisis, everybody knows that story, the whole thing about the mind wiping and everything. Now, a lot of that was Dan DiDio's doing. I mean, everybody knows what happens in the book. Dr. Light does one of the most unthinkable acts in the whole history of DC Comics. He actually rapes Elongated Man's wife, Sue Didney. Why would you want that in a comic book? I mean, Marvel ain't even gone that far. They may have alluded to it in some way. Why would you do that? They've never done that in DC Comics before, and they did it then. And do you know why they did it? And this, I think it said it was an actual quote from Dan DiDio, because they wanted something for shock value. Why would you throw one of the most heinous acts of that is humanly possible into a comic book story for shock value? Why would you throw that in there for shock value? I mean, that's like throwing a murder in there just to get folks to buy a comic. Like actually throwing a murder. I mean, there's deaths of superheroes for years, but it's like throwing a murder of an innocent person in there just to shock them. It's just like throwing any other heinous human act in there just to sell a book, just to get people, just get a rise out of somebody, I guess you can say. Just get people to actually read the book. And it don't stop there. I said, that was Dan DiDio's doing. He actually did that. Throw it in there just to get people to buy the book, just to sell books. It just is a gimmick. And on top of that, the whole book centers around how the heroes go about covering it up. Actually act like criminals almost to cover it up. I mean, the fact that, and it won't just the fact, it's the fact that the villain actually found out their secret identities. Actually found out one of their secret identities and actually claimed out he was going to do it again. So what did they do? They lobotomize him. They wipe it from his mind and alter his mind to be a doofus, you might as well say. To be a bumbling idiot. For Dr. Light, to be a bumbling idiot for all these years. But it didn't stop there. They wound up uncovering the fact that they started doing it for all throughout the 90s. Supposedly in the background, they were lobotomizing criminals and altering their personalities, and that's why. And they might explain that's why all of a sudden they feel like Catwoman almost switched to being kind of a fence-straddling superhero jewel thief. Sometimes she's a hero, sometimes she's a jewel thief. All of a sudden, that's why she's done that, because they altered her personality. And as the writer of the article said, it's almost like that in that story they lost their way. They lost, all of a sudden, all the black and white of the DC universe was suddenly turned into gray. There was no good. Almost like there was no good, there was no bad. Like even the heroes will do what it takes to stop, to stop evil, even if it means crossing a line. That's like trying to tarnish them right there. And of course that leads into like Infinite Crisis and that bloodbath and everything. But as even in that, they take some of the ones from the 80s and they tarnish them. Like Alex Luthor Earth 3 turns evil, Prime turns evil, and then Prime all of a sudden wants to destroy existence itself and everything. Just to bring, he starts acting all like some folks call him a whiny fanboy. Well, nowadays that they had him in there, he would almost sound like 90% of the DC readers now displeasure in the New 52, but I'll get back to that later. The thing is, Infinite Crisis basically tarnished the name of the DC superhero and made them all look bad. It broke up. It caused. They even mind wiped Batman. Batman, when he caught them doing that, they mind wiped him, and that turned him even more paranoid when he started remembering. And in that, he took down the Justice League, and they broke it. Basically, just busted up the Justice League because of this. Why in the world would you do that? unless you were purposely trying to destroy everything. I mean, there's such a thing as stirring up the universe, but this is like trying to defame them and demoralize them. Why would you do that? What's the purpose? And then you had all this stuff that happened all these years. Like I said, all the different things that are uncharacteristic of heroes and stuff. I mean, I like seeing a little bit gruffer Superman, but still, he's Superman. You can't take him but just so far. And I say, and then when you had the Infinite Crisis, you basically defamed that. You basically killed his Lois, killed him. Basically, that was almost like giving a thumb to the nose of the old generation almost. Some say it was almost like transferring over. It's like forsaking your history there. It's forsaking where you come from by killing him. Why would you do that? I say you turn Prime into a whiner, a villain and a whiner. You turn Alex Luthor into a villain. You turn him into a villain after his father's supposed to be a hero. You turn him into a conspiring supervillain who basically just wreaks havoc with the DC universe. Basically just tears it asunder, and in the end winds up getting killed himself. And like I said, it's just you look at a lot of the stuff that has gone on. I can't even name it all, but look at how they've done all that. I mean, you basically look what they did with Superman. I mean, you kill Batman supposedly and have him do all that stuff that they did with him. I said basically in the end, the Justice League wound up just being a bunch of no-namers, a bunch of B-listers again, with some folks that look almost like it kind of resembled you had Dick Grayson Batman, you had Donna Troy replacing Wonder Woman, you had a Blue Lantern replacing the Green Lantern, and you had Mon-El, or after a while it wound up being Supergirl, pinch hitting for Superman. Why? And I said, then you got the New 52, which completely it took every 75 years of history and just lammed it out the door. And it said, and then couldn't find, and then you like basically it looks like Scotch tape history. They just tape things together and they just throw things together, just mix things up. I said you got a emo armor wearing Superman, and it looks like he's about 20, like he's in his early 20s, running around claiming to be Superman. And you have a Batman that's on the verge of being a psycho. You got Wonder Woman that now has a dad. Hal Jordan remains unchanged. I'm surprised. And now they're trying to mess that up. And you got Flash wearing a suit of armor. You got and then he had this Forever Evil thing that happened recently. Like I said, one of the things, and one of the other things, it's like you don't even see the villain as hard. You don't ever see them hardly fighting a villain anymore. They're fighting each other. It's like I've read. It's like they've turned it almost into like the Image universe or the Wildstorm universe. Like hey, and that's another thing that same article commentated on, or somebody I think wrote that article commented on. It's like this is the very thing that the New 52 that Kingdom Come spoke against. Like is in that, and like in that story, the heroes have said basically put villains out of business. So what else is there to fight? Each other. And they're fighting each other, and even to the point where eventually Kansas gets destroyed, and the original heroes have to return and put a stop to it. That's what this is almost leading to, is like Kingdom Come, except the fact that the heroes that were supposed to return to stop it are the ones responsible for it. I mean, you have this Kingdom Come. I mean, you have these Supermen. You had Superman. You had this Justice League. I mean, the most recent event in DC Universe is the Justice League fighting amongst themselves. You have the three Justice League groups, the JLA, the Justice League, and JL Dark, all fighting each other in one book, in one series of books. All fighting on what they claim like was Pandora's box, which was supposed to be, everybody knows the Legend of Pandora's box, and everybody thinks that's going to be the same. That's probably going to be the same thing. May even be like where the regular universe has been trapped at all this time. But at the end of that story, come to find out that this skull that claims to be this golden skull claims to be Pandora's box isn't like the Pandora's box, and we know it's like a mother box. And yes, I'm gonna spoil it. It turns out that this other outsider character has been kind of manipulating stuff in the background. Turns out to be another Alfred, and that's right. It winds up being, and all these millennia and eons ago, this box was supposed to be Pandora's box and everything. Everybody thought it was something mystical. Turns out it was another gate to another dimension. It was the gate, and turns out after all this time, everybody thought it was like this mystical gate that's possibly going to bring back, reverse the cosmos and bring back the classic universe and everything. It turns out to be a piece of technology, an ancient piece of technology that opens the gate to Earth 3 and lets in the crime syndicate. That was the big thing about the Pandora's box. It unleashes the crime syndicate onto the new 52 Earth. And I hate to say this, but the crime syndicate, it's sad when the good guys, and when the bad guys almost look like the classic good guys. I mean, it's bad when Ultraman looks more like Superman than Superman does. Like I said, and even Power Ring looks just like Green Lantern. He looks just exactly like the classic Hal Jordan usually is. Why in the world would you almost make the bad guys look more like the good guys than the good guys do? I mean, now you've got this whole thing going on where the villains are running the show for the next month in this Forever Evil series. And now recently they've revealed Dick Grayson's identity to the entire world. I mean, that's kind of brazen for a villain, but I mean, it's kind of I think they just did that for shock value. And on top of that, Mr. DiDio had a comment about that. Something about rest in peace, and it ended with rest in peace, Richard Grayson. And then he said, "Oh, I probably shouldn't say that." Why would he say something like that unless he's planning on killing off Dick Grayson? There's rumors that he was wanting to kill Dick Grayson off back in Infinite Crisis. He was wanting to kill Dick Grayson even then. And even now he alludes to wanting to kill him again. Why would you want to do that? What is... I'm going to keep asking. So what is wrong with this guy? Matter of fact, I've read an article some time back. And it's about he's doing all this mess in DC Universe. But an actual quote from him, he's a Marvel guy. Why are you working for DC? Does that say how much Marvel thinks of you? If you say you're a Marvel guy, and even Marvel don't like your ideas? Why in the world are you trying to ruin DC Universe if you're a Marvel guy? Why in the world would you do that? And they talk about for years wanting to put out quality stuff. Hey, they had a slogan several years ago called "Drawing the Line at $2.99." It shows you how much they care about the fans. If they really care about the fans, they should have kept that. Look, I'll show it to you. Let me see here. Yeah, right there it is. We draw the line at $2.99. That was their slogan because every one of their books used to be $2.99 for years. It used to be $2.99 a piece for a book. When the New 52 started, they jacked up every major book there was. Everything like Action Comics is now $3.99. Justice League is $3.99. Detective Comics is $3.99, or Batman is. I say every major book that anybody is reading is $3.99. Why would you do that? Every major book is $3.99 except for a few minor ones that stay $2.99. So if you give so much care about the fans, why in the world would you go to trying to soak them all of a sudden? I mean, they did that back in the days when Marvel started jacking up their prices to about $4 a comic for every single book they had. And all of a sudden they want to start. Why would you do that? Why in the world would you all of a sudden go to try to soak the public like that? And on top of that, soak the public to buy and trying to get them into buying an inferior product. Who in the world? Sorry for the camera colors. Why in the world would you want to give the public a bad product and then give them make them pay an astronomical amount of money for it? I mean, I've said this before to my own wife. I said it's like they more care about the movie universe than they do the comic universe. Like they're trying. It's almost like they're trying to purposely sink DC Comics. They've demoralized. Like I said, as somebody actually said this, it's like they've got. It's one of the things they talk about is it's like they try to. They've got back to the whole thing earlier about the marriage thing. It's like they've got a grudge against marriage. I mean, before the New 52, Barry Allen was married, Clark Kent was married. About every major DC hero was married. All of a sudden, when the New 52, nobody is married. Married, almost like marriage don't exist. I mean, everybody that either had a wife is either not married or the wife is dead. Case in point, Earth 2. Lois is gone. And that one, Lois is gone. And they ain't explain why. I mean, and now all of a sudden they approve of a marriage between, supposed to look like equality. All of a sudden they don't want to do it anymore. Have they got a grudge against marriage? I would almost say yes, because it sure sounds like it. And on top of that, you've got, and talk about characters that have been altered, all of a sudden out of nowhere, they go from having Stephanie Brown, who was Spoiler and Robin, go to being Batgirl. Then in New 52 comes along and it's like Barbara Gordon never quit being Batgirl. She never got shot in the spine. She's still Batgirl. And on top of that, you now out all the. I said and now you out her, and now she's disappeared, and so is anybody that's ever been a replacement Batgirl has disappeared. I mean, I've actually sit down and thought about all the characters that have disappeared because of New 52, and I've at least come up with at least four that have disappeared, and that's Spoiler, Stephanie Brown, former Batgirl before the New 52. It was Batgirl all the way when New 52 started. Cassie Kane, Cassandra Cain, or now it was known as Black Bat there for a while. She was back. She ain't there. Wally West, who was Kid Flash and then became the Flash and was still the Flash for a while up until New 52. He's suddenly non-existent in this universe. Miss Martian, who was a white Martian that decided to become decided to look green and look like John Jones and join the Teen Titans, she's suddenly not around anymore. Why get rid of all these characters that folks actually started liking? Why in the world would you want to all of a sudden rewrite history and just take it and just dump it right in the trash like it never happened? Why would you want to do that? Why all of a sudden would you want to just empty out all it and just make it where they didn't exist at all? And then on top, and then Dan DiDio's got enough gall to sit there and tease folks with Wally West. Comments about smart aleck remarks about Wally West. Why would you do that? If you really give a rat's behind about the fans, you really cared about them, why would you sit there and basically tease them like that? And then force feed them mess like the New 52. And it gets worse with the New 52. Now they're force feeding it to little kids. I mean, they started with the Superman family comics not too long after it started. which is basically him in that gracious awful suit, but it's made more into a cloth suit almost. It don't look like armor, but it looks like cloth. Why would you do that? Like I said, they're trying to force this down kids' throats now. And not to mention that, and not to mention that now I've seen where like the Fisher Price sets for like little kids now, where it always feature and like I said, stuff for little kids' rooms. Even it usually featured the Justice League. Like I said, bed sheet sets and wall decals and pillowcases and stuff. All of a sudden, they're now and most of this is at Target. All of them feature the new 52. Every last one of them. Like I said, and like I said about the figures, all of a sudden now they're new 52. I mean, some of them resemble Man of Steel a little bit, but all of a sudden, all of them now look like the new 52. Matter of fact, they just came out with one recently that has Superman with a robotic suit. Or like this big this big mech suit, and Superman looks just like he does in New 52. Now they're trying to force feed the little kids. They're trying to wipe Superman class, and like I said, and the only time like they need classic Superman is when they need to sell something. He ain't in the comics hardly anymore, except with Adventures of Superman. He's on merchandise, and even they're trying to change that. He's on like more adult merchandise than it used to be. But with the young stuff, it's all new 52 stuff. I'm more accepting of Man of Steel than I am New 52 because Man of Steel more is in line with how Superman should be. Not a lot of folks agree, but I think that's more like how Superman I remember acts. But New 52 is nothing like Superman I know and grew up with. Grew up watching, reading about, and everything, enjoying as a kid. But this, now they're trying to force this Superman, this New 52 garbage down kids' throats, and toys and everything. And the mess is not even suitable for young children to read. I mean, now, I've pointed out stuff that's happened in there before that just ain't right and is complete and totally out of character. And one of the things that still comes to mind is Batgirl having to kill her brother to save her mother. And now her own father is after her Kate persona for murder. And little he knows his own daughter behind the mask had to kill her brother. And it's like I read somebody online say, if I see them one more time have Commissioner Gordon pointing a gun at Batgirl, at his own daughter. It's like, and they're a huge Batgirl fan. And I said, that's really disgusting when you got that going on. You got their own dad hunting down his own daughter because he had to kill her brother to kill her to keep him from killing her mother. That's not Batgirl. That's not Batgirl. It's some other universe, but it's not Batgirl. It's not DC either. And it just makes me mad to see further and further every day the comic books that I grew up liking being destroyed because of one, I'm going to say it, maniac that all he can think about is a dollar bill or destroying DC Comics. And I don't know what he's trying to do anymore. I don't know if he's trying to do it for the money or do it for the destruction of the company, but he's running it into the ground. I know a lot of folks are saying something about why are you blaming Dan DiDio so much. He's the one running the company. You have a president up there, but he's the publisher who's helping to put this garbage out there. And I'm going to say it. And lately they've had a hit book, Injustice, based on the video game. They're now putting it on hiatus till next year. Why? Because it's such a hit? And then you had stuff, I said, and then they've altered Smallville slightly, but not way be good. But didn't they come out? But I was initially happy when they come out with Adventures of Superman and Batman Legends of Dark Knight. But you know why I think they did that? To shut up fans like me that keep griping about New 52 and want the old universe back. I think they did that just to appease us, and then in the background saying that ought to shut them up. I can almost guarantee you that's what they say every time they put out something. Every time they try to put out something, they'll try to do that. They're just stirring up more fire. You don't throw gasoline on the fire. When there's a major fire going on, you don't try to fuel the flames. You try to put it out. And then they talk about all these sales figures and everything. They just do that. They just do these little fancy 3D covers and stuff like that to try to get folks to buy stuff. And all I got to say, all these people, I say to the fans out there that like the new 52, they're blind. I don't know why you like this stuff. I don't know why there's some people out there that like this stuff. They're either trying to get on his good side or not. Because every time somebody gripes towards him, he don't even listen. He just keeps doing it worse. He just keeps doing more of what they don't like instead of what they like. And